You know that feeling when you walk into a massive, endlessly sprawling library? And suddenly, the more books you pull off the shelves, the more you realize just how incredibly much you haven't even touched yet? It's a profound sort of mental model, right? Well, today we're unpacking exactly why aimless learning, just gathering facts without purpose, is actually kind of dangerous. And, conversely, why true accessible education is the ultimate defense against tyranny. Welcome to this intimate fireside explainer. We're going to explore a really powerful philosophy about knowledge, freedom, and honestly, the very survival of a republic. The core of this idea is captured perfectly in the phrase, knowledge is a polite burden. Now, while that specific wording is actually a modern paraphrase inspired by Thomas Jefferson, it absolutely hits the nail on the head regarding a theme running deeply through his writings. True learning, it's not some comfortable, easy luxury. Actually, it's a remarkably heavy responsibility. We call it a polite burden because it opens our eyes to the vast, endless ocean of things we just don't understand yet. It replaces our blind confidence with a deep, quiet humility. So, to really understand the weight of this burden, we have to travel back and ask an ultimate foundational question. Can a nation be both ignorant and free? Well, in a really famous 1816 letter to Virginia state legislator Charles Yancey, Jefferson tackled this head-on. He definitively warned that expecting a civilization to be ignorant and free is expecting something that never was and never will be. Period. He knew that the people running a government have a natural, almost inevitable tendency to command the liberty of their citizens. So the only safe deposit for that power, it's the people themselves. But, and this is a massive but, they absolutely must be informed. To lay the groundwork for our journey today, let's look at what we'll call Papa's take. Papa is the author of our featured newsletter and a proud University of Virginia alumnus. His guiding philosophy is heavily influenced by his close-knit family, specifically his spouse, Colonel Debs, and his father, Papa Q. Bear. From them, and from his time studying Jefferson's roots, Papa recognizes a really hard truth. Jefferson was a man of lofty ideals living right alongside hard, undeniable contradictions, like slaveholding. Yet, despite his profound personal shortcomings, Jefferson's enduring legacy, the one that really shapes Papa's worldview today, is the absolute, unwavering belief that education simply must be accessible to all people of a free nation. That vision was translated into actual blueprints with the University of Virginia. Jefferson famously called it an academical village. He intentionally didn't want massive, crowded, imposing buildings. Instead, he designed an open square of grass and trees. It was meant to be a sequestered place for quiet retirement, friendly to deep study. Because the goal wasn't just rote memorization or aimless learning, it was specifically designed to foster a vigilant, moral mindset in the youth, giving them the tools to read, understand what is actually going on in the world, and most importantly, keep their part of it going right. To Jefferson, the stakes here were incredibly high. In his voluminous, lifelong correspondence with John Adams, he mapped out a very clear tension. On one side, you have the disease of ignorance. Ignorance is what breeds morbid minds, bigotry, and despots. It's the very thing that allows ambition, under all its various shapes, to pervert power into tyranny. But then, on the flip side, you have the antidote: education, free discussion, and enlightenment. Educating the common people is quite literally the only way to banish those evil spirits and empower everyday citizens to guard the sacred deposit of their own rights. And honestly, that's a wording that feels incredibly urgent today, especially given our modern era of viral misinformation. And that brings us to a very modern tension, especially when we look at today's unsettled landscape of raw data and lightning-fast technological change. The modern scientist Tom Murphy points out that science is basically a narrow tool. It's powerful and it's tenacious like a pit bull, though, hopefully a little less prone to chewing up your living room sofa. But all jokes aside, his point is that it lacks intrinsic wisdom. It concerns itself entirely with what we can do, not what we should do. This actually perfectly mirrors Jefferson's historical fear of aimless learning. Raw facts, unstructured data, aimless knowledge, they're just tools. Without a moral compass, they can be incredibly dangerous. So what does this all mean? The crucial point is that raw data and raw government power both completely lack intrinsic moral direction. Uninformed citizens whose minds are filled with falsehoods are incredibly susceptible to manipulation. Jefferson realized that to supply this missing wisdom, we have to rely on holistic, accessible education. The object isn't just to dictate to citizens what to think, but to teach them how to think critically. We have to inform the discretion of the people so they can safely and wisely direct the powerful tools of science, society, and government. It's the fundamental difference between just mindlessly scrolling through headlines on your phone and actually having the ethical framework to understand how those exact headlines are going to impact your community. So, how on earth do we achieve this on a national scale? Well, Jefferson gave us a beautiful, incredibly vivid metaphor in an 1813 letter to Isaac McPherson. He compared sharing an idea to lighting a taper, or candle. If I use my candle to light yours, you receive light, but my flame isn't diminished at all. It's brilliant, because knowledge is not a zero-sum game, it's a shared gift. When we educate our neighbors, we spread light across the entire republic, actively dispelling the darkness of ignorance, all without losing a single spark ourselves. But we have to remember, Jefferson didn't just write poetic letters. He drafted tangible, real-world legislation to back this up. He proposed dividing counties into local wards to establish free schools. The goal was to ensure that worth and genius could be elevated from absolutely every condition of life, completely regardless of wealth or birth. He was, quite literally, preaching a crusade against ignorance. He wanted to diffuse learning through the whole mass of the people to elevate the moral respectability of the country. He was transforming high-minded philosophical ideals into everyday, actionable civic duty. Let's synthesize everything we've uncovered today into 4 really clear pillars of liberty. 1, we absolutely must actively combat ignorance in order to safeguard our freedom. 2, knowledge must be accessible to all citizens. We have to overcome the weakness of elite, aimless learning. 3, education has to build an ethical foundation, teaching folks how to think critically rather than just reciting empty facts. And 4, we all have a fundamental civic responsibility to pass this exact flame of learning down to the rising generation. Which brings us right back to our final, Papa-inspired closing thought. The polite burden? It's a flame we must all carry. It's the profound understanding that our own continuous learning isn't just for our own benefit, it's absolutely crucial for the health of our communities and the survival of our freedom. Confidence and humility simply must walk side by side. So as you step back out into the world today, armed with a little more context and a slightly heavier yet much brighter burden, who will you share your light with next? Keep seeking truth, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.